Hello, welcome to episode 3 of 0451, a gaming podcast with, I almost said Pob-Cast.
Podcast. Pob-Cast.
Old enough to remember. Pob. Children's TV.
Or Pog.
Pog?
Remember Pogs?
Yeah. No.
You don't remember Pogs?
No.
What?
No.
They're like little cardboard circles that you collected.
Oh, maybe. Vaguely.
Sorry.
It's a terrible, it's a terrible intro. Yeah. It was sort of, we peaked at episode 2, I think, and then we went down.
It's all downhill from here.
Episode 3 of a 0451 podcast with me, Simon, and of course, Giles.
Hello all. You get the title of the fucking podcast correct.
The Pob-Cast. We changed it, everyone. We've changed it from a podcast to a show about small cardboard circles.
Yeah, I don't even know what we're called anymore or what we're talking about.
Well, maybe we should start, as is tradition, with what we've been playing.
What we've been playing. Why don't you kick off what you've been playing? I'm pretty sure I kicked off last week.
I actually realised that because last time we did the podcast, which was just over a week ago, it had been a month, and it was a long podcast, and we tried to cover a lot of stuff in there, but I realised we didn't cover everything that I actually wanted to talk about, and there's a few games that I missed off that I have been playing over the last sort of month or so before then, and one of them is Deep Rock Galactic, which I got gifted. I also got gifted another game, which I'll talk about later as well. So, Deep Rock Galactic is a game in early access. It is a first-person shooter that I could probably best describe as being a cross between Minecraft and Left 4 Dead.
The obvious bedfellows.
A lot more Left 4 Dead than Minecraft, I actually think. It is a game about. I actually saw this game first at the PC Gamer Weekender, and at first glance, when you see people playing it, you see it in motion. I thought, oh, that looks cool. That looks like it looked like more like a city building game, or it looked more like Minecraft from the outset. I thought, oh, that's great. It's Minecraft, but it's kind of it's first person guns and that kind of thing, and it looked like kind of almost like a colony simulator in. But it's sort of first-person 3D with weapons, right? Because Minecraft's more about the building than it is about combat, really.
Yeah.
But in fact, it's actually mission sort of... I wouldn't say linear, because a lot of the levels are procedurally generated caves. But the entire structure of the game is linear missions that you will go on. And the idea is that... you'll get given a mission to go into the mine of a planet and extract whatever they ask you to. So they could ask you to extract a certain amount of ore, like special, and they have these sort of special science fiction names for the ore, like morkite. And as a bonus objective, collect so much, for example, so much gold. Then once you've done that, you call in a drop pod, and you have to escape back to the drop pod within 5 minutes.
Right, so the Minecraft part of it is literally just the mining.
Not quite, because for one, visually, it's got this kind of very sort of faceted style. It's not blocky like Minecraft is. It's not sort of almost voxel based. It's not. The world isn't made up of cubes. It's just got this style that's kind of faceted polygon style, the sort of flat, hard edges, and also you do have to dig through tunnels in the mine to get to other places and to get to other sections.
Do you build anything?
Not really, but you do have because the characters you play are split into 4 different classes. One of the classes can build platforms that you can use to get to like higher areas and things like that.
Right,
it's kind of cool.
So, have you been playing this multiplayer primarily? Mm-hmm. And
it really is only multiplayer. It's only really co-op multiplayer.
This is going to be my question. Does it have a single player element at all, or is it just that the single player element is it's not designed that way. So you can play it single player, but it's not very good on your own, or
it's pretty limited. The single player in that all it is just you playing there on your own, but with one AI companion who's like he's not even one of the other classes of characters. He's just a robot called Bosco. Yeah, I know. So yeah, it doesn't really have, and I wonder whether they're gonna run into issues with this because if, for example, the amount of people on servers drops off, and then there's nobody to play with, then it becomes much less of a game than it could be. Like in Left 4 Dead, for example, you always had AI companions if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they weren't as...
Seems sort of limiting, potentially, unless the game is really super successful or creates a fan base that, while not massive, go on for a long time, right?
Yeah. I mean, so it has a lot of style and charisma, I would say, and charm. Its loose sort of theme and setting is basically you are intergalactic space dwarves. Yeah.
Fuck is this?
Yeah. You're intergalactic space dwarves. And yes, I know what you were thinking. You can customize beards.
Well, yeah, as should be the case.
Yeah. You can
so is there lore here? Is there a narrative, or is it just
not really? I think it's all evoked in style.
Right, okay.
Really.
Yeah.
As far as I know, there's not any particular backstory. You just sort of take it as a given that you're an intergalactic space dwarf who sits in his little room in his base before he needs to go on a mission to get some more kite. By the way, also, another key element of Deep Rock Galactic is that you, of course, have to fight aliens. Aliens that inhabit the caves.
Right, yeah.
That you enter.
Yeah.
Right.
This is where the Left 4 Dead
this is
part comes
definitely
in, right?
where the Left 4 Dead element comes in. I mean, even down to the point where you will occasionally get a swarm of enemies, which is very similar to the horde of zombies in Left 4 Dead. The enemies seem to be more of them and more aggressive as you're trying to leave the mine. When you're trying to get to the escape pod, so you're constantly being chased by these enemies. And it's actually really fun and satisfying. It has 4 different classes of character that you can choose from when you start the game, and they all complement each other quite well. So you have a driller character who, as you can imagine, drills through stuff really quickly, but he can also use his drill to hit enemies. You have a gunner that also has a special ability as it's like a zip line that he can shoot over to various places, but he can only do it to certain elevations. Like you can't create a zip line too steep, upwards or downwards. And then you've got things like the engineer that is very reminiscent of the Team Fortress engineer, because he can build turrets,
right?
Standing turrets that can help you defend. And kind of like secondary to that, all of the mines are quite dark, and you have to constantly throw flares out to light your way. The scout character has a special ability where he can fire a flare into the ceiling, and it provides a lot of light in one area. But it also this whole mechanic of light and dark works well with the enemies that you encounter, because they can climb up walls and on ceilings and things like that, and so sometimes you can't see them coming until they're almost right on top of you.
Yeah, it's interesting, this space that Left 4 Dead, the Left 4 Dead shaped hole in co-op shooters, right? Because there's been many co-op shooters. Nothing's quite recaptured it, has it? Like,
not really.
I know this isn't necessarily what this game's going for, but like, I know that games like Warhammer Vermintide.
I was just about to say Vermintide. Yeah.
Stuff like that. I think everyone's just waiting for another Left 4 Dead. But it's interesting because I don't think anything's ever quite captured that same essence, Left 4 Dead 1 and 2.
No, I don't think so. I mean, Vermintide is almost a carbon copy, if you've ever played it, almost a carbon copy of Left 4 Dead.
What is the matter with you?
Do you know the whole thing about the phenomenon of political reporters getting confused between the word Brexit and the word breakfast constantly?
Is this like a phenomenon?
This is, when I say phenomenon, it's just a mistake.
But I bet there's like compilations of it on YouTube.
There's a compilation on YouTube of people saying, the problem with breakfast is... I feel like that's
incredible.
That's me today.
That's incredible.
What's that about?
What you were talking about Vermintide?
Vermintide,
you said it was a carbon
copy.
A carbon copy.
Almost a carbon copy of Left 4 Dead. Because when I heard this before I played it, I thought, well, that's probably going to be shit then, isn't it? But it turns out it's really good.
Yeah, a lot of people love it. But again, I kind of feel like it's filling that gap for people, right? A little bit.
Yeah. Until Valve decide to release
anything with the number 3.
Well, they're releasing a card game. Oh no! Well, it's going into beta, I think, soon, but not Left 4 Dead.
And it's never a 3, is it? It's Half-Life, Half-Life 2, Half-Life 2 Episode 1, Half-Life 2 Episode 2, Left 4 Dead, Left 4 Dead 2, Portal 2. This is a known phenomenon with Valve.
It's a good point, actually.
Can't count to 3. That's the joke. But they also bought Campo Santo, so they'll be releasing Valley of the Gods, I think it's called, which is the Campo Santo's follow-up to Firewatch. It's not. I don't think it's in the same universe as Firewatch, but it looks kind of similar in its terms of its art style and its style of gameplay. But interestingly, I wonder whether that'll affect if it's coming on consoles still. I shouldn't think it will affect it.
Doubt it.
But it was a weird buy, Campo Santo, for them.
I know. The guys who made Portal went to DigiPen, which is the games design or games development university, or one of the courses is game development in Seattle. And the game that Portal is based on is called Narbacular Drop, which is like a really simple 2D game, but with essentially the same concept. And I remember hearing from, because one of the guys who was a programmer, did a talk on it at my university, and he said, I'm pretty sure this is correct, is that the reason they called it Narbacular Drop, because you couldn't find the word Narbacular in a dictionary, so when they created the game name and someone Googled it, they would always come up with that game.
Genius. Genius marketing.
But it was very, if you look at it compared to Portal, right, it's got the same idea behind it, but it's pretty simple. But obviously Valve saw something in that, and they saw a lot of potential in it. So I'm curious to see what happened with Campo Santo, and they obviously saw a lot of potential in Firewatch.
Yeah, it's interesting, though, because Valve, for a good few years now, have not really been making any games. Really?
No, they haven't.
Since Portal 2, right?
I mean,
they haven't really been doing anything.
Do they need to?
Of course not. No, not with that Steam money.
I'm just thinking, the amount of cash.
But I think
swimming in it.
Recently, they made a statement saying they're going to start making single player or games again.
Yeah, that's good.
So this would obviously be a step in that direction.
That's
right?
good.
So, but it just surprised me. It surprised me that of all the companies that they could have, of all the developers that they could have bought, and what does that mean for what the kind of games that Valve want to make?
Yeah,
it's interesting to speculate.
They seem to. I mean, since, I suppose since after Half-Life 2, they just seem to have changed it up all the time. They kind of keep you guessing about what kind of stuff they're interested in and going to make.
Yeah,
I mean, Dota came out of, where did that come from? Who'd have thought when Half-Life 2 came out, who'd have thought that one of Valve's biggest games, or the biggest game now, right? Valve's biggest game now, surely, would be a MOBA. based on a mod of Warcraft 3.
Was Dota? Did Dota come after Portal 2? It did, didn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it did. Dota 2. That is obviously not. I'm pretty sure it did.
Yeah, it's crazy, but I mean, there's the Half-Life 3. You know, everyone's spoken about this for years now, but I mean, no one would be more excited than me for Half-Life 3 or Half-Life Episode 3. But you know, Portal and Left 4 Dead were awesome experiences as well. I haven't put a lot of time into Dota, and what they're releasing now is a card game.
Yeah, but I think they might...
A Dota-based card
They'll
game?
just end up surprising everybody. I think Blizzard are like this as well. That's why they're good. Both of those companies always also have the luxury of being able to take however much time they want.
Money, yeah, they've got the money to do it, right?
But, you know, Blizzard with Overwatch, right, for example, like Blizzard making strategy games, then sort of, you know, RPGs and big and MMO picks, and you can kind of see Warcraft 3 having the RPG elements, and obviously they were really into RPGs, you see the connection there, but then suddenly first-person shooter, and you don't really think of it being but then it's great, because I don't know, maybe they just gave it the time, they give it the Blizzard polish, like the Valve polish, right? Like the amount of time they put into it, the amount of money they sunk into it, and just hiring the right people, spending the right money on the right people is just, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, Blizzard like, they don't produce... I mean, they're obviously Blizzard Activision now, right? So they publish a lot of stuff. But in terms of Blizzard developing games, they don't bring out that many, but they tend to be considered the top end of whatever genre they're playing into. So Overwatch is one of the most popular first-person shooters.
Yep.
StarCraft 2 and StarCraft 1, actually, still extremely popular RTS, played the world over. Same with the MMO space. Is World of Warcraft still the biggest MMO?
It is.
I think it is.
Well, I don't know. Actually, I just said that out of...
I think it is. No, I think it is. I think it's still.
It probably is. Although I did see an article the other day that said someone reckoned their subscriber numbers were 1.7 million, and I think that's wrong.
No, that's
wrong. It must be wrong, because I'm sure they dipped from, they were at peak of something like 13 million when they were like, you know, owning the world.
Yeah.
Right?
So the last time I saw any telemetry on it or any analytics on it, I think they're at about 7 million subscribers.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Which is still
pretty sure it's probably,
which is still bonkers numbers for how old? Over a decade old now, right?
Yeah, it's 13 years old.
Nearly 15 years old.
Yeah, because it was 2005.
That's what I mean. So like, and same with Diablo. Like, just so many people still playing Diablo. And
it's just come out on Switch.
Not yet. It hasn't. Comes out. Well, yeah, no, it comes out.
I've seen reviews for it.
Yeah, it's out. I think it's out early November 2nd on Switch.
Okay.
Strangely, it runs at 60 FPS on Switch, docked or handheld, apparently.
Huh. Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as demanding as Doom 2016, right? But
no, but still, it's cool. I'll get on the Switch, even though I already platinumed it on PS4, and then played it on PC as well.
But great, it's a great game.
It is a great
game for Switch.
Perfect for Switch. For Switch. So, anyway,
that was a bit of a tangent.
Just Deep Rock Galactic.
No,
is that what it's called?
No. I have been playing. Of course, I should not go any further before I forget to talk about Black Ops 4, which is very new. It's just over a week old now. So, and that is, for me, quite surprising, because it's the first Call of Duty game I've bought since Modern Warfare 3, I think. I mean, that's including, you know, the Infinity Ward and the Treyarch ones, right? So Black Ops and Modern Warfare. Because they just got stale, right? And I lost interest after a while. But the reason why I went for Black Ops now, and I probably wouldn't have bought it if it wasn't for it, was Blackout mode, which is the Battle Royale mode. for Call of Duty, which is really good.
So I generally buy Call of Duty every year and play the campaign.
Yep.
I thoroughly enjoy the campaign most years, although I didn't get World War II, which is the last one.
Yeah.
Again, through franchise fatigue, really. But I actually thought that this year would be the year that I didn't buy it because it didn't have a campaign. However, I have bought it. It hasn't arrived yet. My copy hasn't arrived yet, which is annoying. But I have played some of it through other people's copies. But I've only played Blackout. And I generally don't like Battle Royales that much. Or I'm not a massive fan of PUBG or Fortnite, which are the only other two I've tried. But I really like Blackout mode. It's super addictive, super slick.
Yeah, that's the main thing to take away from it, and I think that's the main thing because I never played the beta, but I heard from friends that it was kind of like a really solid, polished battle royale game, as you kind of expect from COD anyway, because that's what COD does really well, is slick, solid, fast gameplay, polish. Their net code is really good, and I mean, I'm talking about this in comparison to a lot of the big games like PUBG.
I will say that it's not without some
for
issues,
sure,
bugs, and balancing and stuff, but it's certainly the most polished battle royale that I've seen out the door, if you know what I mean, on day one. But that's all I can't wait to get hold of it because I'm really looking forward to the zombies mode as well because it looks
I did
awesome.
try the zombies mode.
But yeah, you can obviously speak to it more than I because you probably played it more than I have. You own it.
Yeah.
And your copy is actually here.
It is. So it is as you would expect from, in the same way that Call of Duty multiplayer made its success by just being having that nice tactile feedback that Call of Duty games get. You know that the sort of the hit indicator on your crosshairs, right? The little diagonal crosshair that comes up when you hit somebody, and that little audio cue that you get when you hit someone, and it gives you that. And it's not realistic, obviously, but it gives you that kind of that sense of feedback, that sense that it's like a tiny little achievement that you get every time you hit someone. And it's responsive as well. Call of Duty's always been responsive, and having a battle royale game that's really, really responsive is really, really cool. I would say that because I'm a fan of PUBG, and Call of Duty, its multiplayer, feels more arcade-like than something like PUBG. And so if you and there's also a lot more, there's not as much sort of long drawn out tension like there is in PUBG. So you're sacrificing the almost military simulation feeling of PUBG with these sort of rifles that shoot ridiculously long distances, and they have this and they're very loud as well in PUBG, right? Guns are really, really loud. They make an impact. And they handle completely differently. They have more weight to them. Whereas Call of Duty does feel, because it's less sort of simulated, it feels more arcade-like. So it really depends on what you like as a player as well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, PUBG was too slow.
Yeah.
It was too long stretches of nothing.
Yeah.
And I didn't put hours and hours into it. I just kind of played it a little while and thought, I'm not sure it's for me. But on the other hand, Fortnite, which was slick and a lot more polished than PUBG and had a bit more immediacy, I didn't like how the gunplay felt.
Yeah,
the gameplay felt.
Yeah.
I just didn't like. It feels kind of cartoony, and there's not a visceral experience to it when you actually manage to take people out. For me, anyway. So I actually think it's that nice middle ground because it has the visceral impact that you do get in PUBG when you wait long enough, but it has the kind of immediacy and the slickness of Fortnite.
Yeah, and I think that's what the majority of people like, and I think that's to the majority of people's taste, and I also think that's one of the reasons why Call of Duty in general, from Modern Warfare, maybe even before onwards, that's why it's successful and popular. Like with it, that's why it's made so much money, because it appeals to that majority, whereas PUBG is a little bit more niche.
Yeah, and it's a strange thing. The Battle Royale genre is a strange thing anyway, because there's sort of a falsity to progress to it, in the sense that sometimes you kind of feel like it doesn't really matter how good you are at it or how bad you are at it.
Yep.
It's kind of a level playing field. And because of chance, things can go in your favor, and it can make you feel like, because as I've said before, I'm not a big multiplayer gamer at all. So for me, I was like, well, what's here for me? Just multiplayer doesn't sound like it's worth it. But I play generally solo, and it's amazing how like I can get quite high up in the numbers from doing very little and feel like, oh, maybe I'll win the next one. Yeah. But it's just a byproduct of that genre, right?
Yeah, sometimes even if you watch top players playing Battle Royale games, they will be doing really well, and they know how to, use the right cover, know when to use a vehicle, know when to, just to keep themselves as safe as possible, but also being able to push aggressively. Even then, they can, run into a room in a house and get gunned down by a guy sat in the corner, and then that's it. It's game's over.
Yeah, and that'll be the only guy that'll be the only person that guy's killed.
Yeah, I've seen it happen to people on Twitch.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But and you look and people have got like 20 or 30 kills in a battle royale.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
what?
Prior to that,
crazy,
killed half the map,
doing all the hard work. So you've been playing Black Ops a little bit.
Yeah, it's good. I also play the zombies mode. The thing about Black Ops as well, and its blackout mode, is that I know that Black Ops will survive despite its battle royale mode, because it's just an addition. It's just an add-on it's just another game mode, right? Yeah. It can still survive off its multiplayer and zombies mode. People will still be playing that, even if Blackout turned out to be pretty shit, and they're safe in doing that. There are some other games that have come out, like Islands of Nine, I think it was, recently, where it's pure battle royale. It's 100 players. You rely on people coming into a new IP, having 100 players per game, getting everyone into that server, and it also being pretty good. And if that doesn't happen, then the game's flop.
Yeah, it's like, was it the Culling 2?
Yeah.
It's quite a famous one where they basically just had to say, look, we're going back to the drawing board. This is not, what we wanted or what we intended or whatever. But that was the problem with that. You could get there was 11 people or something max in a game on average if you dropped in. And the map was huge, bigger than PUBG-sized maps, with 11 people. Imagine trying to find anyone.
Wasn't there one, I know, towards its end before they switched the servers off, there was 2 people
they said you could win just by standing around at your spawn point, because people would just get fed up with looking for you.
Yeah.
Because the map was so big.
Yeah.
But that's a good point. And actually, what's an interesting point on top of that is, do you think the next Call of Duty... Now, bear in mind, the next Call of Duty won't be made by Treyarch, who made this one. Yeah. It'll be...
Infinity Ward.
Or Sledgehammer, because there's 3
right, okay,
now. But anyway,
it'll
be one of those 2. Do you think that will have a single-player campaign?
Probably, actually. I don't know. I think they'll probably see what happens with this one.
See, I think it will, because it must have been being developed in tandem. They must already be.
Maybe.
They're not going to throw it out, right?
What was the... Oh, it was World War II, wasn't it? The last one was...
Yeah, so I guess what a better question would be, because if they're developing them at the same time, they probably, And it was reported on that there was supposed to be a single player for Black Ops 4, but they just couldn't get it to work how they wanted it to, so they got rid of it. But I guess a better question would be, do you think that single player in Call of Duty will survive over the next couple of Call of Duty games? Or do you think it will die out and it will just be a multiplayer experience?
I think it will, because I think if it was going to die out, it would have actually died out before this. Like, I think it would have died out a few iterations before this, because everybody was lauding and praising the multiplayer modes from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1, like Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare 1. But then it still had a strong campaign in 4. So obviously they were going to just do a campaign as well anyway. They give you more of the same anyway. But I'm surprised they've still had it. I'm actually kind of surprised they still had a campaign in. But I think it's a case of you see what the demand is, right? I mean, the Blackout mode itself is a product of player demand anyway, right? Because it's something that PUBG started.
Almost like a trend.
Yeah.
Like,
so they're like, oh, okay, well, we'll do Battle Royale then. But, I mean, single player is such a inherent, it's like archetype of just gaming in general, right? That it's not like a new mode, it's not like a new trend, really, single player gaming. I know there's been talk of or games companies not doing as much single player gaming. There's a big hoo-ha about EA pulling single player games and that kind of thing. But
yeah,
I think all this stuff is just supply and demand, right? Like, it's just if gamers want single player, then they will start, and developers who are also gamers will start making games as single player.
It's just that on that score, like, if the returns they see, the numbers they see from Black Ops 4 are as good, if not better, than the numbers they see from every Call of Duty that has a campaign, why would you continue to put the resources and time into developing a campaign?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, I don't want them to go away. I'm upset that there isn't a campaign in Black Ops 4, but
yeah, I'd like to see a campaign, because their campaigns are, well, I mean, I say that, I mean,
but they are super expensive, the campaigns, because they're super polished and they're set piece based.
Yeah,
and that stuff is not easy to develop, right?
Yeah, it's custom, it's crafted content. It's more difficult than setting up a play space for people to explore, rather than sort of showing you down a linear, or, well, it pretty much always is linear path in Call of Duty. I know that Modern Warfare 3 I actually finished a campaign of Modern Warfare 3. It was the last one I bought, but I agreed with a lot of the critics at the time in that it felt like a light gun game, because it was just a case of get behind a bit of cover, pop up, shoot a bunch of guys, cover again in the same place.
So you're like on rails almost.
Pop up, shoot a bunch of guys, move forward, which has kind of been at least a big part anyway of Call of Duty, right? But this took it, I think 3 took it even more down that route. But I haven't played anything really properly, campaigns really. I did dabble in what was the Kevin Spacey one? Was that Infinite?
That was Advanced
Warfare. Yeah.
It's interesting, because one of the campaigns that I enjoyed the most, and I thought showed the most sort of iteration, was the Infinite Warfare.
Yeah, that's the one. I missed that completely.
Which was like the science fiction one, and it had like side quests and some RPG elements. Yeah. And I thought it was great, but the general consensus from Call of Duty fans was it was not good. Like, they didn't like it. A lot of people didn't like it, and that's why they went back to World War II.
Right, yeah.
With the next one, to kind of go back to its roots. But again, I haven't played World War II. But I actually really liked Infinite Warfare. I thought it was an interesting take on the Call of Duty formula. You know, it iterated on things. It was different.
You see a lot of games coming back full circle now. Like Battlefield 5 is now going back to its roots in World War II again, and I think
nostalgia.
Yeah, the weapon systems make sense for that kind of game as well. But yeah, it's good. Zombies mode is fucking bonkers. And also, again, I'm not familiar with Zombies mode because, like I said, I haven't played it since Modern Warfare 3. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm going, is that a new thing? Because that's already bonkers anyway.
Yeah, a lot of it, I don't know if they've iterated on it too much, from what I understand.
I think
they've probably just polished it.
I think it's the way you use power-ups.
Right, yeah.
Are different. But it is silly, but it's kind of fun.
Well, Black Ops 3 zombie mode had Jeff Goldblum in it, so it's not going to top that, is it?
Wow.
Just saying. Bring back Goldblum.
The other thing, should we talk about what you've been playing? Maybe we should.
Do you have anything else?
I do have one more thing, which is I have also been playing. The same friend who gifted me Deep Rock Galactic also gifted me Superhot VR. Thanks, Joe, if you're listening. Superhot VR, which is pretty fucking awesome, actually.
So I beat Superhot VR on PSVR.
Oh, no way. Okay.
When it first came out.
I didn't even know you had it. Right.
Yeah. So, it is awesome. Yeah,
it is really good. I think I like it more than Superhot. I think now because last night I played Superhot, like the normal version, and it just wasn't. Like I didn't feel like Neo as much.
Yeah. So weirdly, I've never played the original version. I've only played VR.
Oh.
I've only played Superhot VR, and I loved it. I basically, the day I tried it was the day I beat it because I just didn't, and I was knackered.
I kept going with it,
and I was knackered because like VR, especially when you're not used to it, you don't have your VR legs. It takes it out of you, right?
Yeah.
And I was,
which almost makes it even more like the Matrix. It's like, why do my muscles hurt?
Yeah,
because you've never used them before.
Yeah, I swear I was using muscles I hadn't used in years. Like, and I looked like you look like a complete twat playing that, like ducking and.
Did you, when you played it? Because now one of the guys at work, he said that maybe it's just for the PC version that he didn't think you could hold two guns at once. But when I played it yesterday, you could definitely hold.
You definitely can.
Yeah, makes it even more. The one thing I found about Superhot VR though is like that was a bit weird. Is that because obviously time moves as you do, but you don't move. You're in a static space, really. Generally speaking, I mean, you're in your play area, which could be depending on how much room you've got in your house.
But you can duck and
you can duck.
Stuff.
But no, the one thing I found was slightly weird was that if you're in a situation where you're waiting for an enemy to get to you, you can't really do anything to hurry him up, like because you can't physically move forward. So you just have to kind of like wave your arms around.
Yeah, you have to keep moving,
like,
right?
You just like hello, and wiggle your head about, until he starts moving up towards you. It's like fucking weird.
So for anyone who hasn't played Superhot VR, I guess we should describe what it is.
I think the concept is
kind of basic.
Pretty basic. Time moves when you move. Yeah,
so essentially it's a first-person shooter. It was a first-person shooter, and now it's in VR. And basically, it's got really basic art style. The narrative is that you're inside a simulation, so everyone's pretty faceless. And the idea is that you are attacked from multiple angles, often by several people with different kinds of weapons. Sometimes they'll try and melee you, sometimes they'll try and shoot you. And time only moves when you move. If you stop, time will stop, or if you slow down, time will slow down. So basically, it allows you to dodge bullets, block bullets with your guns,
grab people's guns, throw stuff.
It becomes sort of a choreographed ballet of violence in slow motion.
Yeah, it's like that kind of real control over slow motion because you control how much the time factor is increased by how much you move. But bullets still move very slowly towards you, even if you're standing still.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, it's not, it gives it that slight extra edge, that slight extra challenge
and
to it.
And you can duck and crouch and get low and move around. But interestingly, my favorite moments are the ones where, someone will come in and blast a shotgun off and you'll freeze and you'll see the scatter shot and you'll think, how am I going to get out? And you've not got very long. They're still coming at you. Yep. And you've just got to, maybe if I throw this gun at him, it'll knock him over and then I can dodge sideways or down. Like it's super fun.
And you can actually block bullets with objects.
Yeah, with your gun.
With your gun, yeah. You can actually shoot bullets out of the air as well, I think, which is, it's just, Like it does make you feel like this sort of weird combination of Neo and Jackie Chan, and like it's
great.
Yeah, it's super cool. Now, yeah, now what did I say about Superhot as well? It's one of the like negative point I wanted to make about it though.
VR.
Well, no, not so much about the game, but more about the fact that I can't fucking throw to save my life, right? I like pick up because normally in the game you don't have to worry about the skill of the person
the
throwing.
actual trajectory.
You just point it and throw it, but I just can't throw properly. So I'm like trying to chuck like bits of. There's like a table full of bottles and like cans and things like that, and there's a bunch of guys, and the only thing I can do is throw stuff like the ninja stars, right? Chucking like, and then I'm just throwing all of the ninja stars. Some of them are hitting the wall, the ceiling.
It gets easier the more I got pretty good at it, but again, even when I was good at it, I swear sometimes it's just completely erratic. Like you just throw and it just goes off somewhere. And there's that moment where you've got one guy left and you've got no ammo and you've got one bottle and you're like, here it is, my moment. And you throw it just misses completely and you're like, oh. Now I'm dead.
I felt because it's split into sort of stories, I suppose, and each story has maybe 5 levels each in it. On average about 5 levels each, but it has permadeath within the stories. So if you fail on one level, you go right back to the beginning of the story. I mean, they're pretty short-lived.
Yeah, they're like mini chapters.
Yeah, but I found, because I was having so much fun with it, I found no frustration with failing whatsoever. I was more than happy to restart it.
Yeah, generally it's quite dynamic as well. You can kind of tackle it in different ways. And there are maps where you can move to different points. Right, you can like teleport yourself almost to different points. So it's not that you're just rooted to one spot.
Yeah.
So you can tackle it in different ways. So yeah, I don't remember getting particularly frustrated with it.
Yeah. You're just enjoying like the combat, enjoying like just sort of doing acrobatics in your living room over like dodging bullets.
But if someone comes in and you're like, what the fuck
what are you doing? Crazy, man. That's actually a thing about the new Call of Duty I noticed is that that it seems to be, it's a lot of it is based around this idea of gun acrobatics almost, sort of more so than say like in blackout mode, more so say than like PUBG or even Fortnite, where it's running and then sliding around corners.
They've toned that down a lot since the last few, because the last few had like jetpacks and weird Titanfall style
wall running and stuff like that.
They've kind of toned all that down, but I mean a big part of Call of Duty is understanding a lot of these elements, the movement. What is one? Second is the learning the best guns, like.
Oh yeah, that's.
I haven't played enough Blackout, so I pick up something and I'm like, is it all right? Is it good? I don't know.
Yeah. What is it?
You can only carry 2, so there's like a risk reward if you want to swap it for something else, but that comes in time, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, they have scaled it back, the movement stuff.
We should probably talk about what you've been playing, Charles.
What I've been playing, right? So generally since the last time we spoke, I've just been playing more Assassin's Creed Odyssey because it never ends. Not only does it never end, I feel like I've gotten nowhere. Like,
really?
I've played it now for 50 hours and I'm not even halfway through the story.
What, like, have you just been doing the story?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, you know about me and completionism, right? But the problem is, it's like an OCD. Like if I only bought one game for 6 months or a year, it would be the greatest thing ever. But I think we've reached like critical mass, where any bigger is too big. And actually, I would say that the world in Assassin's Creed is just a bit too big.
Yeah, developers are always talking about how their world is twice as big as some other games' world or their previous games' world, and you see like Fallout and Sky, like a little bit of Bethesda stuff. Our new map is or like GTA, right? Rockstar, and then there's upcoming Red Dead Redemption 2, where it's going to be I think probably their biggest map.
Yeah, and it's got the Red Dead Redemption 1 map in it or something.
As well as
like that's what I mean. We've reached like the pinnacle. So and now it's got to a point where your map is so big that it can't. I don't know. For me, it's just a bit. I mean, Origins was pushing it. That was a big map, but this is like way bigger.
Wow.
And like maybe it's just because I've got a lot of other things I want to play and a lot of other things I've got to get to, and I'm busy and I'm a grown up. So
you want to get the platinum,
and I want to get the platinum. I want 100% it as well on top of that. But I mean, it just feels like I can go home and play it for 5 hours and it feels like I've done nothing. It feels like I haven't even made a dent.
Shit.
So I mean, that's really good in one sense because it's really good value for money. And it's really big. You know, I think The Witcher 3 is the same. I had a similar thing with The Witcher 3, even though I wanted to finish reading all the books before I played through the game entirely. But it was the same thing. You know, you spot a question mark on the map and you go over and 5 more pop up. And you're like, okay. And then that just keeps happening. And other people have said this on other podcasts and such. I'm talking about The Witcher who have got OCD. I'm really enjoying Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but I do think it's just a little bit too big, if you know what I mean. Like, in terms of like literally too big. And the other thing as well, like when you have an open world that's that size, I feel like repetition is inherent because it has to be, because you have to fill it, but you can't fill it with too many different things because it's too big. Right?
Yeah.
I think that's what people are waiting for from Red Dead, that the world will be filled with interesting and dynamic events.
Yeah.
But there's a level of repetition to Assassin's Creed Odyssey where it's not so much in the side quests or the main quest. They're actually really interesting and diverse and well written, but the sort of side activities, a lot of them are kind of the same.
Okay.
So.
Like what kind of sort of activities do you get up to?
Like, so there's like fetch quests, which you do for sort of extra experience or, you know, extra money. There's also an arena, which is just fighting your way up. There's also basically the main crux of it are similar to Origins, where you'll have a stronghold or like a base or an encampment or something like that, and you'll have to, you know, there'll be certain checklists for you to do to 100% that area. So loot all the chests, kill all the generals, and, you know, whatever else. And that's interesting, and that's kind of dynamic because they're different sizes and there's different levels of enemy and different, you know. So, but after a while, you realise that you're just clearing these things. I mean, it's different to Origins in that the idea here is that it's actually interesting because I think it's at odds with itself sometimes, because the idea is that you're a mercenary, right? So you don't have any allegiance to the Athenians or the Spartans, who are at war with one another, and you are empowered with the ability to be able to tip that war in either direction, even though it doesn't seem to have any major ramifications if you do. But you can, like, if the Athenians have got grip on an area, you can weaken that grip, kill their leader, and then lead a conquest so the Spartans take over it.
Oh, that's cool.
And vice versa, right? And that's completely up to you. And that kind of level of, like, choice in who you support is
the agency and sort of just procedurally or like emergent gameplay.
Yeah, that level of choice is mirrored in a lot of the story missions as well, or at least in some of the side quests. But the problem is that it starts to kind of create some hypocrisy, because you'll do missions for a Spartan general for the glory of Sparta, and then you'll move to the next area and you'll be doing missions for the Athenians.
Okay,
and it'll be like you don't have a problem with either. And it's not that it should be that you have your own goals in mind, which you can play it that way because there's lots of dialogue options. You have your own goals in mind. You don't care who's winning the war. You're just profiteering off of it and getting information. but you can play it like for Sparta, and then the next time for Athenian, and like, you know, and then it kind of creates this hypocrisy where there's sort of narrative dissonance between your character's choices.
Yep.
Which I've noticed, but again, we'll see how it kind of all wraps up. But the main story itself is interesting, although again, it's not really tying deeply into Assassin's Creed lore.
Yeah.
Thus far, which is not a great surprise considering the stuff we talked about. Was it last week?
One. Yeah, last week. Yeah, similar. With
how it kind of ties into. But yeah, I just think that the open world in general, I would rather it was a reasonable size with more diversity, filled to the brim with stuff to do, interesting, different stuff to do, than being like, I have to run for like 10 minutes sometimes to get to a waypoint, or sail for like ages. Like, I've started like, and it looks so beautiful, but like the other day I was trying to get somewhere, and I hadn't unlocked I hadn't been there yet, so I hadn't done the viewpoint, so I hadn't unlocked fast travel to get there, and it was so far away that I just set my horse on auto run and just read a book and kept looking at the screen occasionally till I arrived. So I just think, and this is not leveled just at Ubisoft. I think in general, like a lot of open worlds have just got to that size now, right?
Yeah,
they're just huge.
But you're still enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it enough to keep playing it. So
yeah,
but then that might be the OCD talking.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, it's good. It's good.
They still have Senu in it, don't they? The eagle.
Well, it's not Senu, but they do have an eagle.
Okay,
just called Icarus,
because that was actually one of the really good points or good changes I found about Origins that just made more sense, because and especially in terms of a stealth game, it's just a really nice feature to, instead of, because normally, I mean, I remember playing Assassin's Creed 1, you did the whole synchronized thing at the top of towers, and that was pretty much it, but it just showed you quest givers and things like that, and being able to call up a flying eye in the sky is like your satellite.
Yeah, it's like a drone.
Like a drone, yeah. But weirdly, it makes more sense to me than a lot of modern stealth games, whether you tag enemies like the Tom Clancy stuff, right? Because if you buy into the fantasy that he has some kind of physical, spiritual connection with the bird, right? Like,
yeah.
But it seems to actually it gets you kind of a bit more immersed, because it makes a little bit more sense. And it's definitely something that's really helpful, and it allows you to kind of live the fantasy, the stealth assassin fantasy, I think, a little bit better than previous Assassin's Creed games did.
Do you know what it feels like? It feels like an MMO in a lot of ways.
What Odyssey does?
Yeah.
Okay.
It feels like a really beautiful, really polished MMO that you just play by yourself. And by that I mean the size of the world, the type of activities that you do, the leveling structure, they're sort of almost the business model in terms of how they're rolling out DLC, and there's weekly events and monthly events coming. These are all things that started with MMOs.
Yeah.
And the level of DLC they've got coming out is just insane.
Yeah.
There's tons of it.
You got the gold edition?
Yeah, I did, yeah. So I get all of that. And I'm sure I'll play it well, and I'm sure I'll enjoy it. So I'm being hypercritical, really, because I'm such a big fan of of that series. But also, I think because it's just the time of year. Like, I haven't finished Dragon Quest 11 yet. That's another one I've been playing and absolutely loving. Red Dead's out on Friday. Blackout will arrive this week for me and is already out. Or Black Ops 4, I should say.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind replaying through Dark Souls again on Switch.
Yeah.
And the same with Luigi's Mansion on DS. That just came out. Like, it's just insane time of year. And I wish that it had come out in the summer or something when there was like very little or less to play.
Yeah.
But giving me a 150-hour game right now.
Oh man, there's not much character or class customization beyond choosing between the guy or the girl and your general perks, right?
There's not difference in terms of, obviously there's different armor which aesthetically is different, and you can choose to bring that up to your current level. So if you find a set of armor that you like, you can keep it if you pay,
right?
In-game money, not real money, obviously. And get the resources to level it up. You choose between Alexios or Cassandra, and that has much more bearing on the story than I thought it would. I'll just say that. Don't want to spoil anything.
Okay.
But it does actually have a bearing on the story. But the other thing that's interesting about it is it's kind of your choices in game kind of define how people see you and the kind of character you create, rather than, your perks and your aesthetical stuff. And it's difficult to tell, because it's my first playthrough, how much that's actually happening. Yeah. Whether I'm always going in the same direction and it's just some dialogue that changes, or whether the ending is going to be drastically different because, But interestingly, it's got like a free-form quest system where, like, I know somebody at work who's playing it at the same time as me, and we both were at the same point in the game, but he had got there through completely different quest means. Like, there's parts where you can choose one quest or the other, and it kind of takes you on a different route to the same location. So for a while, we weren't really sure if one of us was ahead of the other one. So it's kind of interesting.
It does feel like they're they're slowly moving towards the sort of more role-playing style, but they've still retained all of the nice sort of stealth-based, action, movement based on just physical dexterity. It's not like, they haven't dumbed down any of the combat and movement as much, and it's still been improved upon. So it's not like they're favouring RPG over action, or it doesn't seem like that anyway. Yeah,
and I think that they... I agree. I think that they should lean more into the future timeline stuff a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's toyed with and used, and there's some very interesting lore if you read all of the... Because, like, there's certain future sections where you get access to emails and collectible, kind of set dressing lore. And if you read that stuff, that's really interesting, but they never seem to quite commit to it, which I always think is a shame, but I get why. But and 90% of people who are playing it don't care about that anyway. They only care about the sort of past timeline stuff. Maybe 90% is a bit of an overgeneralization, but I know that a lot of people, wouldn't mind seeing the future side of it gone completely, but I always liked it. I always really liked it. I've been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed, playing a lot of Dragon Quest XI, which is just another Dragon Quest game, so you'll know if you like them or not. And then I also forgot to mention 2 games that I'd been playing the last time because we had so much to talk about.
Yeah.
I also platinumed the Shenmue 1 from the Shenmue collection, the Shenmue HD collection.
Uh-huh.
Shenmue being one of the greatest games ever made, in my opinion. And
they've got a remake now with the Platinum Trophy as well.
Well, there's 2 Platinum Trophies because there's one for Shenmue 1 and one for Shenmue 2. And I've got the one for Shenmue 1. I did it in like a weekend. Like, I just didn't stop till it was done. But I need to get the one for Shenmue 2. I just haven't moved on to it yet. And I also platinumed Spiderman on PS4.
Okay.
Which we should have spoken about, really, because it's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's an example of a open world that isn't too big.
All right. Okay.
So it's big, and it's helped by the fact that you can traverse it quite easily because you're Spider-Man.
Yes.
But it's not too big. It never feels overwhelming. It always feels like you're able to accomplish everything on the map. It's
supposed to be quite authentic as well. Did you see the tweet of the guy who recognized a section that he was sat in a building, recognized a section of New York at that point in the game, looked out of his window, and it's the same bit.
Yeah. So so I went to New York like 2 years ago, and I know a few people in the city, and one of them he's a member of the the Central Park Sports and Athletics Club, which overlooks Central Park, and they were nice enough to let us go up on the roof.
Okay.
So we got on the roof of this building overlooking Central Park. Fucking awesome. And I found that roof.
Okay, nice.
And I was like, oh man. And I'm like comparing it to photos that I've got. And I'm like, it's exactly the same. I also, I found the hotel that I stayed in.
Amazing.
And it's a hotel in the game as well. And I took a selfie with Spider-Man outside of it. Like nice. In game. Just, yeah, so it's super. It's not exact because you wouldn't want to do that. You know, it would be a bit too much. And you don't get Brooklyn or, you know, it's just sort of Manhattan.
Yeah.
But it's accurate enough, and it really feels like it's made by people who love Spider-Man, who really understand what Spider-Man is. You know, it's their own universe. It's not based on any, you know, already established universe. They've created their own version of Spider-Man with similar elements, and references to every other piece of Spider-Man fiction you can think of. But it's, you know, it's got a really, really good, really well-written, well-acted single-player campaign. It's got loads of awesome side activities. It's got fun combat. It never feels like a grind to level up, ever. It never feels like a grind to get the collectibles. I was sad when all of that stuff was over, really. It doesn't overstay its welcome. Like, you get the platinum in 25 hours, 30 hours maybe.
Okay, yeah.
That's a nice, like, you know, I'm 50 hours into Assassin's Creed and I'm like 37% of trophies or something. You know, it's like, it feels a bit daunting.
I've heard people say that the combat is kind of like Batman Arkham, but you shouldn't treat it like Batman because it's a lot about kind of like a couple of one-hit punches and then web them or something, and then run away a bit and then go back into the combat.
Yeah,
some people were getting caught out by treating it like the sort of chained combo moves you get in something like Batman or Shadow of Mordor. Like,
yeah, so it has the same basically. Yeah, it's basically the same in terms of its foundations, and it's probably not quite as responsive as Arkham, but then they rarely are. The same with Shadow of War, the same with Mad Max. But what it does have, and what people are missing about it, I think, is that if you just play it like Arkham, you kind of miss out on a lot of the extra kind of bells and whistles that are in it, like the different moves, different attacks, different gadgets that you've got.
Okay, yeah.
And once you incorporate them into your game, then you start to realize, oh, okay, this is something different. You know, this is a real power trip if you kind of understand how they work and, you know, start using webbing and all kinds of, you know, ornate moves and takedowns and stuff. Uh-huh. You can get by just spamming the square button and dodging or parrying when you need to, but it becomes kind of mundane if you do that.
Yeah.
But it's a real studio defining game. I mean, I like Insomniac as a studio, and they've made great games. I really like all the games they've made, pretty much.
They really did sort of, land on their feet. They were always good, but they really did pull it out of the bag. It's probably the best idiom to use.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's another level, even for them who are established as making great games. It's a complete, and like, it made more money in its opening weekend than Spider-Man Homecoming made in its opening weekend.
Wow, like the movie.
Yeah, the movie, and also it also let me get this right. It broke God of War's record.
Oh wow!
Like really quickly as well. Like within 2 days, it had broken all its records.
Oh, we still got Red Dead to come.
Oh yeah, but I mean, bear in mind, Red Dead's not a Sony exclusive.
Okay.
God of War and Spider-Man are, so that's kind of
okay. Yeah.
But interestingly, Insomniac is not a first-party studio. They tend to make games for Sony. They've made a lot of games for Sony, but they're not owned by Sony. In fact, a lot of the DNA that's in Spider-Man is from Sunset Overdrive, which was an Xbox exclusive.
Yeah.
But generally, everything they've made other than that is mainly for Sony for a long while now. But yeah, so yeah, I played Spider-Man, I platinumed it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Wow, yeah. Sony must be heaping praise on them because.
Well, I mean, Sony are just killing it with exclusives.
Yeah, it's good.
Just killing it, like God of War, Spider-Man, Detroit,
Horizon.
Horizon.
Yeah.
Last of Us, Ghosts of Tsushima coming out next year. Last of Us Part 2 obviously is next year as well.
Yeah,
Death Stranding.
They've always had the classics like Shadow of the Colossus that they keep
remaking.
Yeah.
Death Stranding's another one.
Yeah.
Days Gone. These are all exclusives.
Yeah.
Even Uncharted 4 in recent years and Lost Legacy. Microsoft has had Forza in that time. I think so if we go from God of War, Detroit, and Spider-Man are the latest 3 big Sony exclusives, right? What's Microsoft had out in that time as an exclusive? Forza Horizon 4. I'm struggling. I can't think of... Sea of Thieves.
Oh, yeah.
Sea of Thieves.
Yeah.
But that's all I can think of.
Yeah. Yeah. But like you said last week, it sounds like they'll be...
Gearing up for next year.
Yeah. They're up in their game.
Yeah, of course. Of course. And I think Sony have got to be careful because they can easily get complacent with such success.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. So, are you playing anything else apart from Odyssey, Spider-Man?
Odyssey, Spider-Man, Shenmue. So Odyssey and Dragon Quest. And then, this week I'll be playing Black Ops when I get it. And maybe some Dark Souls on Switch, even though I've played that game so many times. And then it's Happy Red Dead Week. Yeah. Happy Red Dead Week, everybody.
Coming up.
We're never going to produce another podcast again.
Jesus.
It's over.
If we do, it's just going to be all about Red Dead.
I read today, I didn't know this, I read today, apparently, that horses' testicles in Red Dead shrink when the weather is cold.
Yeah, this was an article.
I don't know how I missed it.
Yeah, no, I think they were talking about it around the office, actually.
Now, really, is that was the first thing when a blizzard blows in and you're on horseback, and you think, I need to get some shelter.
Yeah.
Is the first thing you thought, I better pop off and check if his bollocks against the wall. I don't know whether.
I hope this isn't the sort of to the point where Star Citizen, for example, does these crazy sort of dives into ultimate detail into every finicky thing they can. But I have quite a lot of faith in Rockstar, so I think. But I don't see it as something being necessary, really.
No, it's not necessary.
I can see good. I can definitely see all the reasons for having detailed animation systems, and as in not testicle shrinking, but a lot just generally just character and
of course
and just the way the muscle structure on the horses move and it's pretty fucking difficult shit, right? It's pretty difficult to do.
Of course,
I mean it's difficult enough to do with bipedal creatures, but then to do it on quadrupeds. And
of course,
it's
but
crazy.
Dynamic testicle shrinking
stuff is
I just think that's
not something. I really want to buy the new Red Dead because I just really want to, that's not going to be my motivation, really, buying Red Dead.
Speak for yourself.
I wonder if it's just on the back of the box, just in big letters.
It's like a key feature.
So the headline.
No, maybe that's the PlayStation exclusive content. I hope so. Only on PlayStation. So that's just a whole lot of Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
That's basically what I've been playing.
That sounds good.
Yeah. I'm enjoying it. It's good.
So, shall we move on to news?
The news stories.
What's been happening in the news?
For the week. Well, speaking of dynamic shrinking testicles, Rockstar, Red Dead. So, even though this is not the order in which I've got two things I want to talk about with regards to Red Dead. One is not really important but kind of interesting, and one is super important and has bigger ramifications in the industry. So which would you like? Would you like the important or the less important one first?
I know what the important one is, but I can't remember what the less important. Let's start with the less important one.
Apparently, Red Dead is on 2 discs.
Oh.
Now, I think that's the first time this generation, if that is the case, I mean, it's heavily rumoured, we won't know till we get it, right? But I think that's the first time that's happened.
Yeah.
This generation.
Maybe.
And I heard that it's got 105 gig day one patch.
Shit.
So I don't know what the install is, if it's got 105.
Well, do you remember, like, Shadow of War was a really big game? I don't know, because I don't know what it's like on console, but I know on PC it is about 120 gig. Maybe at least 100, it might be 105, something like 105, 110. But that was a really big game. Now, Blu-ray discs around about 50 gig each, I think.
But like dual layer Blu-ray, right? That's the thing.
No idea, to be honest. I don't know whether even that's... I couldn't speak with any confidence.
No, that's just crazy.
But you can imagine... I mean, I can imagine if there is a game... If Shadow of War can be that big, then Red Dead can be that big.
But Shadow of War
was only on one
disc.
Yeah. I don't know. I wonder how much was extra downloaded content.
Maybe it's one disc for the online mode.
Extra downloaded. Also, I'm going from PC as well, where you have the option to download high resolution texture packs and stuff like that.
Maybe.
So sort of. So yeah, I'm not sure.
Maybe one disc will be the online
was
and
the
one
best
disc.
for comparison.
Yeah,
maybe.
But I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. But the more important story this week for Rockstar is the infamous 100-hour week comment.
Yes,
that was made. I think it was made last week, actually. But I don't really want to focus on the comment and who said it, but more just the notion of the crunch in the games industry and our experiences with it or without it, and what we think it means and it is, and what we feel should be done about it going forward. Right. Because it's an important part of the games industry that maybe the casual gamer doesn't know about, and maybe is too accepted by some people. By
some developers, you mean?
By some management. Like, it generally, the general consensus seems to be that crunch is sold as a badge of honor when really it should be seen as mismanagement.
I actually think that's a bit of an old fashioned-ish attitude now. I mean,
I hope so.
As in, I haven't heard stories like that for a long time as relative to games industry history, and maybe I just haven't been in the loop with a lot of other stuff. Maybe, I don't know. But at least it seems to have been better over the years. I've done crunch before. I've done 2 a.m, 3 a.m.
Yeah,
working,
me too.
But yeah, it's a, and then that's like unpaid, right?
Yeah,
overtime. I've been talking a lot about this with people, a few of the people, games developers that I know as well. And I think the big danger is that even if you say, for example, which has actually come out recently, that last couple of days, where Rockstar said that they were telling employees in Rockstar Lincoln, which is the testing center, that it is crunch is completely optional. It is not mandatory. But it doesn't matter that you say that, because it's about the individual employee's experience when everybody else is sticking around.
Yeah.
Some of whom want to, some of whom may not want to, but want to impress, maybe. Some of whom feel that, actually, they say that, but didn't really believe them by saying that. So then, or then, there's the other side of it. If you're an employee leaving a studio at normal time, but everyone's sticking around, you might have the worry, which might be a legitimate worry, that, other people will be thinking, well, that guy's leaving.
Yeah,
it's like
about
not,
expectation.
it's
right?
just generally just pretty awful.
I think the problem is, one of the major problems is anyway, that a lot of people get into the games industry. Most people, almost everyone, gets into the games industry because they love games. They want to make video games. They're passionate about games. And that passion is quite easy to exploit.
Yeah. That always used to be the main sort of argument I think certain employers would use, that it's like, well, if you're sort of almost like you're paying for the privilege of working in games, because it was their excuse essentially to employees, which is why you should do overtime or else you're out. There's always been talk of unionization and or just, I think, employees just banding together themselves and just kind of like flat out refusing to do it. In general, I'm not sure there's anything good you can say about crunch, really.
No, I mean, and it's shown that productivity goes down if you work too many hours per week anyway. So
that's the thing.
You're getting worse value for your money anyway.
That's the thing. You see these Scandinavian countries who are trialing the sort of 6-hour days, I think it is, maybe 4-hour days, I'm not sure, and doing studies into how productive people are. Turns out, it would probably vary by profession again. So, if you're a doctor or something, it maybe doesn't really work like that. Or maybe it does. Maybe you just have more doctors. I don't know. But
I mean, the thing is, I think there is still an elitist problem in the games industry in general. I think that this sort of attitude is worse for people lower down on the on the ladder. But I think that's almost true of almost everything. There's been many instances in many studios that I've worked in where I felt like people in positions of authority or people who are seen higher positions or more valued positions are given much more, leniency and freedom when it comes to working hours and all kinds of other things. But I'm not convinced that isn't present in other industries as well. What makes it different about crunching specifically is, like you were saying earlier, the attitude that I understand is now older, but is still around. I think that it's a good thing, and that sometimes there'll be reports saying well, looks like there was a couple of reports after this Rockstar comment that said, well, it looks like the crunch has paid off because Red Dead looks great, and it's kind of condoning that kind of attitude.
Yeah, that doesn't really help. I've also heard that story is mostly false as well, but
what, the 100-hour weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it smacks of a throwaway comment.
Yeah, and it's like, or maybe even an exec who's trying to show off.
Yeah, embellishing. But the point is that the idea of showing off by saying that I've been working 100-hour weeks shows an inherent problem, because it shows a glorification of 100-hour weeks.
It's also massively, it's massively sort of insensitive to the people who work there, because it's not you who has to do the crunch. It's like saying, I don't know, it's like our slaves will work harder than any other slaves. like, well done, brilliant.
Yeah, and I don't get the attitude of saying, it's paid off.
Yeah. I don't. I think you're. Yeah. I don't know what. Yeah, some people don't mind it. I've done it before and I haven't minded it, but I can't really see anything good come out of it. I can't really see a solid argument.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything good to go. But the problem is, there are studios out there that this is how they work, and they produce games that make a lot of money and sell really well. But I've heard that places like Rockstar, but also like Naughty Dog, you know, they like that's they're consumed by their project, whatever project it is. Like almost all the members of staff are. And so I don't know, maybe just better planning or better, you know.
Just spending, like it is easy for, because I've never been involved in project management before, and I've never been involved in sort of accounts or how much big budgets cost. When I've worked in the games industry, I don't think I've even known, well, not really, how much stuff has cost to make. So I don't have any idea of what the logistics is behind that. But at the same time, and it is easy for me to sit here and say like, just hire more people, like just spend more money, which I'm sure a bunch of other people, project managers, etc., would come back and say, well, we don't have the money. But I don't. Again, but at the same time, I don't think that's an excuse to burn people out. But I mean, there's never an excuse to cause your employees stress. And I know, and I'm sure you do as well, the best companies I've worked for are the ones who get their priorities right for their people, and they work well because they look at their priorities are for their employees, not for the project.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that if you were to take, like, especially with paid, because some crunch is paid over time as well. This is not all crunches.
Yeah, it has got better,
and it's still wrong to make people work that much, even if you're paying them. But if you extended your project out and paid them the same amount over a longer period, you would probably get a better product out of it anyway. But in my experience, the studios that don't put emphasis on making you work, you know, they give you the autonomy to work reasonable amounts and things like that. They get the best results.
Yeah.
Like they get the best results, and they're always on time, and they're always,
in fact, half the time when I've done crunch for projects, those projects haven't turned out half as well as the ones where I've worked for studios or on projects that didn't have that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So
that's my point.
It doesn't. It's a funny thing because I think the arts, like developing games, is part of the art. It's part of developing arts. But it's almost like it's different from the film industry, where you have it's like an office job for the film industry in a way. So it has this weird sort of, you've got this 9 to 5 sort of office environment mentality, but not unlike a film where you're on a set and you've got things that just, people do shoots at different times. Nothing's really consistent in terms of working hours. And I know, like, you hear about big Hollywood films, for example, actors work a lot, right? They work like crazy hours. But I think the working environment is completely different. It's almost like...
Well, also they're unionized.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So there's the Screen Actors Guild. And, so there's measures in place for protection.
Yeah.
That are just not there in the games industry.
Yeah. In conclusion, crunch is bad.
Crunch is bad. Don't crunch.
Yeah.
I mean, we should have saved that one because, like, the rest of the news stories are nowhere near as interesting. What we got? Right. What about Sean Bean?
Oh, fuck, this is great. I think one of the headlines on the Gamers article, Gamers websites I saw, was Sean Bean, who definitely never dies, is the next elusive target in the new Hitman game.
Well, is it that he never dies or that he always dies?
I think they were being sarcastic.
But I get you. But I mean, isn't it called the Undying? The
chapter?
This particular elusive target. I think they called him the Undying.
Maybe it is. I saw the. Yeah, I think you might be right. I saw the trailer.
So either they're being ironic, or they're asserting that Sean Bean has actually never died. In all the times we've seen him die, he's not actually died. He's actually eternal.
Okay,
and
so
it's been leading up to this moment where Agent 47's
that bit in Patriot Games where he gets his head chopped off. Is it by a propeller? Is that Does he get a head chopped off?
I think so. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he. Yeah.
But I mean,
he just sort of carries on.
Yeah. No, I reckon we can put all of his movies into one timeline.
Yeah. He just brushes off those arrows,
including
Fellowship,
including Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Everything else, like.
Well, the thing is, interestingly, at least in the TV show, you don't see. Oh no, you do actually see his head on a spike.
You do, yeah. Spoilers for season 1 of Game of Thrones. I mean, I don't know anyone who, when they found out Sean Bean was in Game of Thrones, didn't know straight away that he was going to be dead.
I don't think I was even. I don't think I did, because I wasn't. I'm not even sure. Weirdly, this is going to sound really dumb. Wasn't really aware of the phenomenon of Sean Bean dying.
What?
Yeah, not because I just never clicked with me, and I'd never really. I mean, I'd watched plenty of films with Sean Bean in them, but like, I'm pretty sure it never really. Like, I don't know why. Maybe I was. I don't know. I certainly didn't think he was going to die.
Like, I can,
but I don't know why.
I mean, it's
even
obviously,
if I knew that.
It's obviously a falsity that he dies in every film. I can think of at least 3 movies where he doesn't die, but the vast majority, he just dies. Yeah. But yeah, he's coming as an elusive target, right? In Hitman 2.
Which is perfect. It just makes so much sense. Do you remember like the first one that had Gary Busey as an elusive target?
Another eternal.
Yeah, Gary Busey is an elusive target. It was really cool though. Like I was almost surprised that they managed to get. I mean, like does Gary Busey like Hitman? Does he like games?
Do you remember when they did that Chuckle Brothers live stream for Hitman?
Yes, I do.
So what?
I do remember that. That was.
I feel like
that was just
I feel like the community team for Hitman are either geniuses or insane. Like it's one or the other. Like it's like mad genius.
But the funny thing is, it's like
Gary Busey, Chuckle Brothers, Sean Bean.
Yeah, but the Chuckle Brothers is quite an English thing, and IO Interactive are based in Denmark. So unless they have, unless the Danish are well versed in British children's comedy,
niche British children's comedy,
or they have some British people working there. Or just like a random Danish dude who worked at the office. I mean, it could have been anyone, right? Because multinational, games development's pretty multinational.
To this day, I don't know what the inception was for that Chuckle Brothers live stream. But there is not a day that goes by that I don't thank
IO
Interactive for its existence.
Fucking yeah.
But I know you're looking
to you with the razor wire,
garrote wire.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, he died. One of them died.
I feel like it was
Barry
Chuckle died.
Barry
right?
Chuckle died recently this year. Well, a few months ago even. Oh man. Yeah.
But yeah, I know you're looking forward to Hitman 2.
Yeah, but and even more so now that Sean Bean's in it. Just
I want him
brilliant.
to be.
But he's an elusive target. Now, the elusive targets in Hitman 1 were time-based. Right? They were time-restricted, so they were only there for like a month. And then...
I mean, but he's a pretty...
you had to have... And you also had like one shot at it?
He's a pretty big actor. They can't just have him in for month of launch, right?
Don't know.
Maybe they're doing something different with the elusive target.
Speaking of big actors, did you see the Squadron 42 trailer for Star Citizen?
No.
I already knew that it had big name actors in it.
It's got Mark Hamill in it, right?
Yeah, but he was always in like Chris. He's kind of pals with Chris Roberts because he was in the old Wing Commander 3 and 4 and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember.
But it's fucking Gary Oldman, John Rhys Davies, Gillian Anderson.
What?
Yep.
Gary Oldman.
Yeah, Gary Oldman's in it, man. He's like a principal character, as far as I know.
Yeah, I've kind of lost. I lost touch with Star Citizen when it just got silly, and I was like, it's never coming out.
Yeah, it's always been silly.
It's just never coming. Is it ever coming out? Who knows?
I mean, it's like grand idea is amazing, but it's not. But also, the grand idea is not something that's particularly. I don't think really is particularly original. It's like what everybody wanted to do with space, but nobody just went ahead and went, I'll do it. Like Chris Roberts was like, nope, fuck it, I'm doing that. I'm doing all of the things.
I can't believe
the
funding. I can't believe the crowdfunding. It's just insane.
I think they've reached 200 million. Yeah. Again, rumor, I heard. Not sure.
It's insane.
To corroborate that after the show.
Insane.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Sean Bean. So, a bit of sad news. So, gaming magazines Games TM and GamesMaster, which has existed for as long as I can remember, are ending, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They are going away. I never really read much Games TM, but I definitely read a fair amount of GamesMaster. And
I didn't really read GamesMaster. I read a little bit of Games TM,
but I mean,
it was like lying around somewhere in an office.
But I mean, like they were obviously very successful mags, and I think that this is like not
in an office that I worked at. That is not any old office.
Just wandering into offices. No, but I think that it's not a reflection at all on the quality of work, because they both were great magazines. I think it's just moving away from that medium. Magazines just getting kind of less and less read and more expensive with internet news sites being able to report instantly on Twitter.
I'm surprised it lasted this long.
Yeah.
To be honest, I mean, people were talking about print dying out at least 10 years ago, surely, right?
And I don't know whether it'll die out completely, but I think that the smaller mags are going to suffer.
Yeah.
And under the Goliaths of these huge... And also, YouTube and stuff, like people are reporting through YouTube. YouTube's doing a lot better than a lot of gaming websites now.
Yeah.
Preferred coverage and things.
They have... they offer because I subscribe to PC Gamer, who were also under Future Publishing, who did Games TM and GamesMaster. And they offer a lot of sort of discounts on... They offer free games as vouchers in their magazines that you don't get, obviously on just visiting the website. Obviously, that'd be crazy. And they also... The reviews and the articles are in the magazine before the release. Some of them, not all of them, I think, before they're released on the website. So they're doing a lot to kind of incentivize buying print again. I like magazines. I like them. I like sort of like something tangible about games.
Yeah.
But I do, I'm surprised still that they've lasted this long.
Especially the amount of them as well. You'd think that it would get to a point where there'd be kind of one or two major mags for each outlet.
And I was thinking about this today because, when we were talking about Games TM and GamesMaster going down, that remembering that probably my primary source of... It must have been my primary source of games, not just games news, but just games knowledge, really, apart from obviously playing games, but just of what's hot, like what's new, what's coming out before the internet happened, right? So when it was, even up to the late 90s in a way.
Yeah, I didn't get the internet myself. Like, I didn't have the internet at home for quite a while. Like all my friends had got it, but I didn't get it in my home until I moved out. So even way past the point of the internet's kind of inception, and I was still buying magazines for walkthroughs.
And also because magazines, right? You didn't have good download speeds then. Even when we'd gone past sort of mid 90s, when you get consumer internet, you didn't have the download speeds to download demos and things like that. There was no real proper digital distribution of full demos, let alone full games. So having demo discs on magazines as well were a big thing, and that's that was one of the real draws for magazines for me, was having demo discs on the front, like 3.5-inch floppy disks on the front of PC Zone and PC Gamer. Yeah, because I'd be like, that's basically a free game. Like fucking, it's like a £5 for a magazine, and you get free. And some demos were like, and some of them were just shareware. products, right? If you remember shareware, like Doom was classically shareware. A bunch of other stuff, but a bunch of other games at the time started taking over the same model. So it wouldn't be just sort of one authored demo map or one level that would maybe never see it in the final game. It was like a whole chunk of a game that were released for free, and then you pay if you wanted to play the rest of it. Like then, but now,
different time.
This not. Why would you really? I mean, I know why I subscribe to PC Gamers, because it's. I mean, apart from the content that is unique to the magazine, there's also something nice about the tangible nature of, like, Games Magazine. I'm just being nostalgic.
No, I agree completely. For me, it got to a point where, I mean, I used to collect the official PlayStation magazine. That was generally my mag. But it got kind of a bit thinner and a little less robust, and it also got more expensive.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a problem when I was younger and I lived at home, but then as soon as like bills and rent and things came into it, I was like, it's like £7, and that's not expensive at all. But when you 18, you've just moved out or whatever, you just think, I've got to cut these off. So then I just sort of stopped collecting, and then once I stopped collecting, I just never got back into it really. But I still read like Edge occasionally and pick up the old PlayStation mag. And do you remember when £7 seemed like loads of money? Do you remember that? I lose £7 sometimes. Like sometimes.
That makes it sound like you're rolling in money.
No, maybe I'm just terrible. Like I just like take £20 out and just lose it.
Senility.
I don't think you need to speak to me about senility in this podcast. What were we talking about? So, yes, news. So, actually, on that score of, the digital age taking over the print media, it seems digital sales are up quite considerably on some pretty key console games over the last few weeks, which is unusual. So, physical sales for Soul Calibur 6 are around 55% down on what they were on Soul Calibur 5. Wow. However, it is selling similar numbers to Soul Calibur 5 because of digital sales.
Huh.
Or it's doing well, but through digital sales. The same thing was the case with a few other games. Assassin's Creed, I think, was 25% less physical sales than Origins, but sold more overall. Now, digital, and there's a couple more examples, but yeah.
Because I predominantly play PC, I haven't bought a physical copy
That's
of a game.
That's why your copy of Black Ops is here and mine isn't.
Yeah. So because
exists.
I don't think people even half the time, well, most of the time, people don't make physical copies of PC games anyway anymore. So I don't really know too much about that side of things. And when it comes to console, I did hear that recently that a lot of digital copies are more expensive, though, which would be weird.
So we have a bit of a problem in England. In Europe, it's different, but in the UK, it's not England. In the UK, I should say, because I assume this is the same in
compared to mainland Europe.
No, yeah, so it's not the same in Europe. So in the UK, we have what they do is they take the price in euros, and then they just change the symbol from a euro to a pound.
Okay, right, yeah.
So essentially, games that are launched are like €70, 60 to €70, which is about £40 to £50.
Yeah,
but digitally, they're 50 to 60.
Okay, yeah.
Or 60 to £70.
Yeah.
Because they don't convert. My assumption is because the UK is the only place still using pound sterling.
You got Odyssey.
Not using.
You got Odyssey as a hard copy.
Yeah, right? I bought physical for Odyssey. But I tend to buy physical.
But with Odyssey, if you lost the disc, is it now in your library, could you download it?
Huh? No.
Okay.
That's not the case either. So the thing is, the copy I bought of Odyssey actually wasn't too dissimilarly priced on the store, and the store prices have gotten better. But like with Far Cry, when I bought Far Cry 5, it was ridiculous. Far Cry 5 Gold Edition on the PSN was like 80 quid, and I got it for like 55 physical.
That's insane.
So like,
what do you prefer, physical or digital?
Physical, definitely. But
you probably, I mean, as in the next 10 years or so, that might not even be an option.
So like, obviously, the boat has sailed with PC. I buy all my games basically on Steam or digitally in some capacity on PC. And I'll be sad that when that day happens. I'm sure it will happen though. But as consoles get more and more aligned with the PC in terms of technology, I guess it's an inevitability.
Yeah.
I almost feel like, I don't know though, because I feel like the other part of me feels like it would have gone by now. Like they would, Yeah. But it's just interesting that there's been this spike recently.
Yeah, that's weird, especially given that I suppose you say in the UK, right?
One thing I will say though about PlayStation, and I think from what I understand, Xbox a little bit more now, but I'm not really in that ecosystem very much. But with PlayStation, their sales are pretty good. They're not Steam good, but they're pretty good. At the moment, the Halloween sale, you can get stuff like BioShock Trilogy for a tenner.
That's good.
Things like that. That's decent price. You would probably, that's sort of, I mean, Steam is just ridiculous sometimes with its sales, but yeah, other games below 10, below £5, so that their sales are getting better. And maybe, I haven't looked recently, but maybe they've aligned their digital prices a little bit better. Both Microsoft and Xbox. I don't get why stuff on Switch is just more expensive. Like stuff on Nintendo platforms is just slightly more expensive.
The digital?
For no reason at all.
Yeah, but then they also use cartridges as well, which is weird.
But like even the digital version, so like if you buy Dead Cells as an example, I think it was something like 15 on PlayStation and 18 on Switch. Maybe they're wrong, but you know what I mean. Like everything's just a little bit more. Or like the best example is Darkest Dungeon.
Yeah,
you can get that for like £3 on Steam. Yeah, I got it for I think £7 or £8 on PlayStation, and it's £20 on Switch.
What? That's crazy.
Or it was. I don't know if it still is.
Is it because it's newer on Switch, or
and the novelty of it being on Switch, and Nintendo stuff is always more expensive on Nintendo, even if it's just a little bit. People have started calling it the Nintendo tax, where they just charge a little bit more.
I've heard this before. I
mean, Dark Souls remastered, right? PC version, I got it day of release for £17 on Steam. Right, it's £35 on the Switch.
Wow.
Now, I don't know whether I got some offer because I already bought Dark Souls on PC before that, maybe. Maybe they did some offer, but you know what I mean, right? And it runs at 30 FPS on Switch.
Yeah. You're like...
And it runs locked, 60 plus on PC with mod support. So it's a strange thing. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting that there was this spike in digital sales and what it could mean for console gaming going forward and... console sales.
I don't think it's going to stop. It's going to keep going.
Spoken like a true digital PC master race. Oh my god, this is a great story. So Capcom are at it again with their special editions. They've done this before. They have released, or they are releasing, a Devil May Cry 5 Ultra Limited Edition, which includes a replica of Dante's coat, Dante's famous red leather jacket. And it's $8,000.
$8,000.
Yeah, £6,100 in the UK.
What do you get with that?
All I've heard, I don't. You know what? I should have looked into it a bit more. But from what I understand, you probably get the game, the season pass. I fucking hope you get a statue or something. Jesus, $6,000. You should get like a car.
Do you not get like lunch with the developers?
No, nothing like that. You just get a jacket. But yeah, Capcom have done this before. They did it with Resident Evil 6. They released one with Leon's jacket, and it was a jacket again.
Yeah,
and it was like $10,000. And then I'm sure some other developer did it with a car game
where
they
just like chancing it. Is it sort of like when you try and sell items from inventory on on a Steam store or something like that. And you're like, oh, I got this T-shirt in PUBG, whatever. Screw it. I'll just see if I can sell it for £1,000. Nobody would buy it.
Maybe. I mean,
but because they're makers of Devil May Cry,
the funnels,
or like, is it the sort of like the mobile, the equivalent of like the mobile gaming whales, where they sell a lot of. They do a lot of microtransactions, and there's always that one person who just got so much money, doesn't give a shit, and just spends like $15,000 a month.
To be honest, I think that model is actually bleeding over into consoles as well, and PC as well as mobile with microtransactions, because a lot of developers talk about whale customers that spend serious money on things like FIFA and card packs and stuff, but. I should have looked into what's in it more. I was kind of taken aback just by the fact that the general thing was you get a jacket, it's $6,000. Like, it's insane that would just if it is just the jacket, there must be something more. The game doesn't even come with it. And also it's 30 quid for the game, 40, 60 quid. It's interesting as well because I think I remember a car game doing this recently and selling an actual car. I think it was Project Cars or something. I don't remember. Maybe it wasn't. I'm sure they did one with an actual and it was like tens of thousands of pounds. Yeah, I was going to say because you'd have to get a decent car. By this point, it's got to be a publicity stunt, right? They can't be expecting to. That is not. Yeah, that's not. Yeah, that's marketing, surely. I don't know. I don't know who. I'm a big Devil May Cry fan. I'm looking forward to Devil May Cry 5. There is no fucking way I'm spending $6,000 on it. Like. Man, I don't spend $6,000 on anything. On a fucking holiday, I wouldn't spend Yeah. That's it. It's insane. Yeah, that's. I want to see the sales figures. I want to see how many of those they sell. I'm actually speechless. I don't have anything to say. No, there's no more to say really. It's amazing. And finally, what are we at? Nearly 2 hours, right? It's all right. Yeah. Finally, for our news, Orange Box, Portal on its own, Left 4 Dead 2, and Crysis 1, 2, and 3 have gotten Xbox One X patches, which is not big news, but it is kind of cool. That's kind of cool. Yeah, and apparently there's significant... improvements, especially with Crysis, which is notoriously difficult to run. Okay. Because Digital Foundry have done a really good breakdown, as always, about this. But Crysis is a weird one anyway, because it runs at... I think Crysis 2 and 3 run at 31 frames a second. What, on Xbox? On consoles. On all consoles. Okay. And so it hasn't increased the frame rate, it's just made it stable, because it was like, if you played it on Xbox 360 or PS3, the frame rate would drop to sort of low 20s, teens in some sections. But its standard was 31 frames a second, which created weird frame pacing anyway, which is still present on consoles. But yeah, it's good that they're still patching those games, and obviously the Orange Box is all good. Okay. I'm assuming they've done... my assumption is that, because I don't know really much about this story, but my assumption is that they have, they probably used some of the higher detailed meshes from the PC version. They probably used some higher resolution textures. For the 4K stuff. They've probably done some more post-processing in it. They've probably done some... Actually, they did 4K. They probably don't even need anti-aliasing, but Well, do you know that you can play Morrowind in 4K now through the Xbox One X? If you've got the original. Well, resolution is not something that's like particularly like it's not as time consuming to change, as long as you've got the power to do it. But mesh detail and like texture detail, if you haven't got it, needs to be created again. Yeah. But there's always like UI problems with resolution. Like your UI shrinks if you haven't got a dynamic UI. It's a problem I had using 4K monitors, especially on older games, where the UI would be half the size because it's trying to run it at 1080p. It's weird. And then you need to scale it. People never scale. I mean, do you remember when we tried to play Black Ops 2 player? That's just reminded me. The Black Ops 4? Yeah, you know,
Yeah,
the
the split
blackout
screen.
mode, the split screen.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
don't
I mean,
change
that's-
the UI at all, and I couldn't even see
Yeah,
any button prompts.
and also like they've vastly reduced the resolution. They vastly increase a lot of like the loading distances and mip mapping and stuff on the textures, so everything looks kind of arse.
It looks awful.
Even on a big screen. But yeah, the frame rate's like 24. Well, it feels like 24 frames a second or something.
Yeah, it's awful. I couldn't even see what was going on when I played it.
It's just a blur.
Yeah, I couldn't even see what was going on. It was a mess. But yeah, that's it for the news, I think.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that was longer than I thought it would be.
Well,
actually,
yeah.
given we only did last episode last week.
That's true. That's true. Do we have any housekeeping stuff? Like,
Be sure to follow us on Twitter, as usual, at Black Spine Media.
also, YouTube. We're on YouTube now, and that's really helpful because it gives us good telemetry and things. So be sure to watch, like, subscribe, smash that like button.
If you want to contact us, in fact, we want to try if once this hopefully takes off a bit more, that people will ask us questions, and we'll do a whole section on questions. So, but if you want to ask us questions, probably the best way is to just direct message us on Twitter,
Or leave a comment.
you can leave comments on YouTube.
Yeah.
At the moment. So,
Yes.
yay.
Yes, indeed. So we should be weekly from now, which is cool. I don't know. We need to get a day that we know we're posting, because that's kind of been a bit nebulous because of schedules and stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll let you know as soon as we know what day to expect us. But definitely weekly, so it's all good.
Yay.
Yeah. Well, you got through it despite your senility setting in.
From me to you.
Oh, fuck off. Rest in peace.
Yes. Okay. Goodbye.
See ya.